So now I'm supposed to introduce Nicole. Hello. That's a good idea.
Too much information.
So I could say a lot of things about this woman, but I will just say that I am grateful to be a part of her life, to share our time together, to weather the storm of raising children, and also seeing her blossom through her struggles and creating so much beauty and bringing some passion into our lives. So, Nicole, you're up.
You might want to save your clapping till the end. You never know. All right. All right. Abracadabra, the magic of medicine, art, and love. I chose this title because there were so many factors in my recovery story. It was kind of my own resurrection, and since it was Easter, it seemed fitting to do it this time. It was more than a recovery because I'm different. I recreated new parts of myself, a new life. And I'm hoping in this talk, I'm going to pose questions to you frequently, like the reading in the beginning, to actually have you ponder yourself. So if you could have a chance to recreate yourself, what are some of the things you would do differently? Take a moment to think about that. Abracadabra means I create what I speak. And I think it's in Aramaic. August or some other people that have traveled around know this. But when I was trying to come up with a title for this picture, which is kind of the signature piece for this talk and my healing process, I had revitalize, rebirth, resurrection. And I asked my friend Carolyn Kesters, who does a lot of poetry and art kind of things, what would be a good word? And she said, well, abracadabra means I create what I speak. And while I was by myself, I was speaking a lot to myself. And I was trying to create new life and revitalizing. So I felt like abracadabra was a good title. So consider what you're thinking, speaking, and creating in your life. Every year around the end of December, as the end of the calendar year draws to a close, people around the world ponder New Year's resolutions. For others, the new year and time for reflection and new growth is now, in the spring. My aunt is from Iran, and every year they celebrate their new year in the springtime. So there's others that celebrate, the spring, the first day of spring as their new year, Chinese New Year. There's a lot of different other cultures besides the Western culture that celebrate at different times. But I feel this is a very timely talk to think about that, our new birth. On January 5th, 2015, I began my 5-day treatment of chemotherapy for hairy cell leukemia. Literally, I was getting rid of old cells and building new ones. The magic of medicine. Scary, but magic. We discovered my diagnosis in October 2014 after many years of feeling less than 100%. I had stomach issues, nausea, fatigue, aching joints, abnormal bruising, and then I started to get illnesses that the rest of the family, even my elementary-age children, weren't getting. So after many tests, including a bone marrow biopsy, the doctors found that 90% of the cells in my bone marrow were leukemia cells. My family and I were shocked and relieved because it was no longer, I'm just over 40 and things are going downhill. But more than that, it was in my bones, not in my mind. It was something that could be treated. And there was no cure for this, but there is a viable treatment that puts the cancer in remission for about 15 to 20 years. Hopefully I will be longer than that healthy. So I celebrated Thanksgiving and Christmas and prepared my space for recovery and healing. My family was very supported. My husband even made this dartboard for me and our family to use. So, does this one work too? Probably So this one, if you look around, I won't read all of them, but the one that I wrote down that I thought was good. There are times to let go and times to surrender to what is out of your control. And then there are times you pick up a few darts and fight like hell. Some of them are a little sillier, like, oh, I'll let you look at them. But anyway, he took lots of layers of cardboard and created that for me. And this is the one we're going for. These are the good cells. We want to keep them. So. Okay. Well, after much debate and consideration of the risk of illness, it was a tough flu season this past winter, we decided I would stay in Kingsport in an apartment owned by my family friends, Liza and Roy Harmon. I would be just up the street from my mom and dad, so they would take care of me, and like my husband has to too, and they brought me meals, and when I was able to, we went for walks, and they supplied me with some art supplies and support. In the corner of the apartment, I had an art studio set up, so I've made like a mini one so you can get the feel for it. So every morning and every night and every day, all through, there was this corner of art supplies set up, easels and things ready for me to like look at and think and create. So I had trouble sleeping because along the way, things started to be more creative. As you can see, I produced a lot, and I couldn't go to sleep. So that's why I chose the lullaby song at the beginning, because that was hard. I had to really work on calming myself. So, starting January 5th, I prepared to do this magic. Abracadabra, I had set up the studio corner, I had art supplies, had lots of books. I read Diana Gabaldon's series one more time, third time around. I had lots of cards from people. I had meditative rocks and singing bowls, so I've made like a little representation of that, and lots of cozy blankets. I got 3 quilts throughout the time of this. And then I had these little healing cards, nice. And my friend Lori had given me these to reflect on, but they're different things. They have a picture on the front, which is beautiful artwork, and then on the back they have a quote. And the one that resonated the most with me throughout was, relax, breathe. Everything is happening exactly as it should be. It didn't always seem like that. So the first day we started, I was really anxious. I had a quilt that I had received, which was the flowery one, but that first day of chemo, somebody gave me another quilt, the square one, the white with the colorful squares, and she said, you can never have enough. You get cold when you do chemo. I was like, okay. And then later, they thought I didn't have enough coverage, so they gave me a bigger one, which is the dinosaur one. So I have these like really colorful ones. But color was important for me. The chemo wasn't too bad. My veins are really small, so the hardest part was finding the veins. And but I didn't. Luckily, I had just mostly nausea and a bad headache, not a lot of the side effects that other people have. It was only for 5 days, and so I just kept grounding myself that the others that were sitting around me, they might have a longer, harder journey than I. So I just tried to keep grounding myself. It was 5 days, and then I would rest and recover. So the day after chemo ended, I began my art journey. I tried. January 10th, I didn't have to get up and go to chemo. I could sleep in and begin to emotionally and spiritually focus on healing. I had a little strength, so I began painting. I started to play. I just decided not to worry about doing something specific. I had a whole list of things I was going to finish, so I was just going to play. So the first one I started, if you can see it, I'll try to, is it on still? No, okay. This one is what I started with. It's called Reaching for the Goal. This summer I went to pick apples, and I remembered my friend Lori's dad saying, there's always that one perfect apple, but it's sometimes hard to reach. I didn't really focus on making it great. I just played and relaxed. My dad asked me, though, what did I feel about the painting, and maybe I should jot down feelings about each painting as I do them to read and share later. Good thinking. Here I am. So I looked again and realized that it was symbolic for the goal of getting better. the chemo was not fun, and now the climb to build back my blood would prove to be challenging, but like that delicious, perfect apple, it will be so great and worth the climb. So another thing that I did was read a lot. The Diana Gabaldon series was one, but Steve and Diane Barrett had given me May Sarton's Well, and I read several poems from there, but one of them helped me paint a picture. So when I first read it, I read it quickly, and the idea of a bright red amaryllis blooming in the dark of night seen through a snowing white windowsill came to mind. And I don't know if you can all see these. I'm sorry, I have so much stuff. I have so much stuff that you'll have to walk around and look around afterwards. So when I read it quickly and I saw that, and I had a white window blocked out because it was in a snowy night, and then I didn't really like it necessarily afterwards. I liked the petals, and I liked parts of it, but that white, stark white blocking kind of made me a little concerned. So I read the poem again, because, you reread things and you find new meaning. And this is how it goes. In the snow light, in the swan light, in the white on white light of a winter storm, my delight and your delight kept each other warm. I met myself alone in a windless calm, silenced at the bone after the white storm. What more was to come? Out from the cocoon in the silent room, pouring out white light, amaryllis bloom opened in the night. The cool petals shone like some winter moon or shadow of a swan, echoing the light after you were gone of our white on white. I had seen a red amaryllis, and now I saw white. This is a sensual poem now of love and remembering to me. I kept wondering why this poem gave me new meanings. Partially, I was still recovering a little, spacey. But also, I think when you read new things, we read it again, new meanings come out. And when I thought about it, I said, I thought of the joy and grief of visits of Shane and the children. They were very short visits, and they weren't for long. And if they were too brief, I would have this sad, empty feeling afterwards. And so I would try to fill it with some art. So as I prepared the talk, I was reflecting again on these different pieces, and I looked, and I framed out the white around, and I realized that it looks like a cross over the amaryllis, which is kind of in keeping with Easter and that reflection. But there were also many, many people praying for me or thinking about me or putting out good thoughts. There were people in Kingsport, Tennessee, Lawrence, Massachusetts, Abingdon, Virginia, people in... I had a mass prayed for me in Lourdes, France. I had relatives and friends praying for me in England, Germany, India, and Brazil. So much love, faith, and good thoughts were being sent my way. This was very, very powerful. And so the faithful amaryllis is now representative of this beauty and faith in dark times. Solitude. Is it better for me to use this one? It doesn't matter. You keep trying to give me to this. Okay. Solitude. Loneliness is the poverty of self. Solitude is the richness of self. I'm going to read that one more time. Loneliness is the poverty of self. Solitude is the richness of self. Again, this was from May Sarton's Well. I'm a very outgoing, extroverted person, as you can see if you don't know me. So this time, January 5th to February 13th, was a time to learn that solitude can be the richness of self. This was a hard lesson to learn because I really had never had 5 weeks by myself of quiet and just to focus on me. I saw my mom and dad daily, but usually it might have been sometimes just for a short while. My friend Maxine brought me cookies a few times, and then Shane and the children came to visit maybe once a week, but not always. And so since February 13, I've been transitioning from that solitude quiet time to this. So there's two kind of parts of my growth of being in that and then trying to transition. So in my recovery rebirth retreat, the silence and opportunity for inward reflection helped me create all of this. So I had some goals. There was the Arts Depot fundraiser. I did a couple for them. One of them's in the back. It's a little sunset right here in the middle. And I can walk around and show these so you guys don't fall asleep, even though I sang you a lullaby at the beginning. So this one right here is now owned by Wava. She participated in the fundraiser. Thank you. And that's called Sorbet Sunset. I wanted to capture the rich sunsets that we have in our backyard that I was missing because I didn't have those where I was staying. And then I wanted to, and then I did another one, a fairy forest, but that, I can't find out who bought that one. And then I wanted to revisit some paintings that I had already started but hadn't finished. And I know we all have those kinds of things where we get started on a project and we haven't been able to complete it. Well, I had lots of art things that had that. So the first one that I started on is Nautilus. It's in the blue-green frame back here. Initially, I had created the shape, and I had a Nautilus shell in it. I love spirals, so I had that in there. But when I started playing with the acrylics and chalk pastels, it grew. This has become one of my favorites. For me, the Nautilus has the connotation of the sea creature with the perfect spiral, which relates to creativity and growth. But additionally, it relates to the sea and all its wonder. Look carefully and you will see a sailboat, a surfer, a seal, starfish, and the old man in the sea. It reminds me of the beach and therapeutically walking on the sand, finding treasures. In the top corner, there's an adult and child walking on the beach. I enjoy the hidden pictures, depths, and texture, but it also gives me a feeling of lightness and happiness and health, things I was seeking in this healing journey. The next one was this one, Reflections. This was previously a large grayish landscape. I often take, I don't know if you can see it all, but you'll have to come over and look at it later. But it was a gray, I often take old ones that I bought somewhere and I add to them. So it was really gray. It had a great sun and some texture, but I felt like it needed more color and variation in the landscape, reflections on the water, and more vibrancy. So this picture is symbolic of my reflecting during this time. Some thoughts are light and some are dark. Some of them are reaching for the light, as was my goal. I love the darkness of the trees and the line of light that catches in the valley between them and the mountains. I was seeking those light times when feeling weak and worried about getting better. There's another one back in the back, Summer Memories, Fly Fishing with Pop. I had just put very abstract painting down on this one, a lot of light and shapes. But this one stood out to me, was a fish in the left top corner. That was the only shape that I saw with my abstract things. And I'm like, I'm going to make a fishing picture of this. So I remembered a lot of stories of friends that had said they loved going fishing with their fathers and grandfathers. And I especially liked the idea of a girl with that grandfather or father doing that. Shane's been trying to do that for our girls, so I appreciate that. So the features I like are the light and the dark contrast and the movement of the fly line. And I thought, well, it's not done yet. And I was bringing it for you all to see. Well, sometimes if you can't get it done, you can't get it done, but at least you can show people the process. The first when I was bringing it here, somebody's already bought it. So, and another friend wanted it. So I felt bad. I'll have to do another one. So, anyway, but this was, and to also encourage you, though, sometimes along our journeys, you have to let something go, and it will be better later. With this process, I have learned that you have to step back from things when they become stressful, regroup, and move on to something else. The next one is this dancing picture in the yellow background, the torso moving back. Again, I had started this about 10 years ago and had done a watercolor, but it wasn't, just kind of the lines of it. And so I ended up adding acrylic and pastel to help it be more alive. Because during this time, movement and breathing were so important for my healing. I didn't have a lot of energy. I just could walk short distances. There was stairs in the place I was staying, and I would get out of breath sometimes just going up the stairs. So I pretty much stayed in bed a lot with hats on, and then got up and did art for about an hour in the beginning. So because my hemoglobin levels were so low, like 7, and the normal is around 12, between 12 and 16. So I was very anemic. But I made myself get up and move and stretch and breathe deeply. Of course, I'm breathing anyway, but breathe deeply to try to help my healing. And now I'm just feeling enough energy to dance, but for not long, and I hope to be dancing longer sooner. Because I know Margaret's out here. Bunny, I have friends here ready to dance with me. All right, Appalachian Dreams is the one with the black frame. It was a textual picture that I did. It has a lot of rich texture in it, but it felt almost kind of the same, so I just added a little more to bring out the depths and the highlights to help it feel more vibrant. Hence my theme of revitalizing everything. But it also helped me remember the beauty of our area. Where I was staying was very residential. There was lots of pretty trees around, but I couldn't see the mountains. And I knew I would soon. One that you can't see in here, but I put it out in the front because it was one of my favorites, is called Moonlight Chi, as in like Tai Chi. I had painted a very quick picture last year in women's group when we were discussing spiritual experiences. I had painted a deep blue background to outline the shape of a large white moonflower. But, and this was in 2001. I was in Indonesia, and there was a night with a full moon, kind of like last night, in the dark rainforest mountains. And a friend I had made there practiced martial arts and invited me to try it out. It was truly a magical spiritual night of movement. The amazing scent of the big bell-like moonflowers, the energy of the mountain's strength with the full moonlight shining through the rainforest branches, the night sounds singing in my ears. I was very pleased about what this picture captured for my memory. And it's the one that's a smaller one, but it has a gold frame out there, so when you go out, please make sure. You could bring them in here, I guess, to show, but when you go out, you'll see them. I did sandhill cranes. It's also out there. Emily's 40th birthday was 2 years ago. No? 38th birthday, and I was trying, erase that. Okay, take that paper out of there. I'm sorry, Emily. Anyway, Emily's birthday was 2 years ago, and I wanted to give her this gift. And I had done these sandhill cranes because that was her favorite. She's actually 25. And I'm lying. See? She looks great. Anyway, you're younger than me, Emily. Anyway, but I love the movement and colors of the one I did previously, and I was determined to make one for her and keep one. So finally, I did one. And slightly different because I'm not good at copying, but make sure you check that out in the outside. So Raina and Cedar's belly casts are here. 8 years in the planning, I've had these white belly casts hanging around. What are you going to do with this? When are you going to do this? So finally, I took them with me, and I didn't get them done there, but when I got home, as I started to evolve and find time again, I painted them. So Raina's is awaiting nature's gifts. I wanted Shane's hands and mine overlapping. I also wanted Corinne's little hand, but 8 years later now, her hands are bigger than mine. So that part of the plan didn't work. I put daffodils in because Raina has her own garden and there are daffodils in there. And the horse was her request, which is along the top of the chest. You can see it wrapping around the top. And it was a good symbol, I thought, as I reflected, for the wild and beautiful process that pregnancy provides. And even though you try to rein it in, sometimes you just have to hold on for the ride. So that was that one. And then Cedars was Sunflower Child over here. And he was born in a summer of sunflowers. We had got this mystery mulch. And it turned out, well, we thought it was good mulch, but it turned out it was mystery mulch and sunflower mulch. And there were sunflower seeds throughout. So they popped up everywhere in our garden that summer. So he is my Sunflower Child. And he also loves spirals. Ever since he was a little child, always drew spirals. And that's my favorite shape. You know, when you're supposed to choose a square, a circle, or a spiral, that's the one I love. So you can look around and find there's several spirals in my paintings. So that's those two. So then the other goal, those were the things I had to finish. The other goal was to get new things created and try to learn some new things. So the first one I started with that was this Back to Basics one, the small white canvas with the blue, the yellow, and the red that's right behind the easel of the flower. Can you see it over there? I had this canvas, and I wanted to just do something simple, again, trying to play and get into the flow of things, because I'm kind of doing this out of order, but that was like my second piece that I did while I was healing. And I loved the crisp lines and the white spaces that came into it. I was really fragile and weak feeling, so just letting it flow and paint, like let the colors do their thing, was really important for my process. And the kids, I was missing them a lot, so there's 2 pictures here that I did for them. The Kiss of the Dragonfly is this little horse picture here for Raina. She loves horses. I love dragonflies, so I made that one for her. And I tried some textural things that was new for me, so that was fun. And then Cedar loves Legos. Legos. How do you paint or draw Legos? But anyway, I tried, and I got oil pastels, so Lego Chimo Warriors is over there in that corner. Another piece that's out in the hall that's like a really important one. I'm sorry that I didn't bring it in here, but I just felt like that was very symbolic of my time. Could you go get that one, the tall one? I painted this in reflection of the worry and fear that I had developed during this time about getting sick. Because of my low immune system, right after chemo, my white blood cell counts were as low as 0.2. Normal is 4.0, which it takes a while to get up to that. Yeah, I mean, I really killed those cells. I was washing everything as soon as I came back from chemo, or any time I went out, I would take my shoes off the door. I had a basket for my dirty clothes at the top of the stairs. I would immediately take a shower. I would immediately take a shower and change clothes. I was washing my hands so many times, I was having to put moisturizer on. It was just like crazy. And I even discovered, faucets are really important if you have anybody that's sick. Get ones that you can turn with your elbows. The one I was staying with didn't have one. It was one of these like old-fashioned ones, so I had to have a face cloth, a washcloth next to me that was clean. So I'd wash my hands, and then I'd turn it off with the clean face cloth because I was so anxious about germs. I couldn't hug, as you all know. I was so anxious about that. I couldn't, you always need to scratch your nose or your face when you are sick. These are the worry times, and I couldn't, you can't touch your face. I've never been a germaphobe. This has not been me. I've always been it's building up my immune system. But with only 7 weeks to rebuild and recover, my youngest sister, Anne-Marie, was getting married on February 21st. And this was the window of time that I could do this healing. And I had to, in 7 weeks, be well enough to be a part of this ceremony that I wanted to be a part of. So I had all these prayers coming in, sending me wishes of healing. I actually had a dressmaker's dummy at the front door. The person who owned the apartment, she made dresses and stuff before, and she had dressed it as a pirate. So I had written a sign, "Arg, no germs may enter, or they will walk the plank." So when I was doing this piece, I initially thought of the talisman of the evil eye, warding off the evil eye. Prior to going to the treatment, it's right here in the picture, we had these beads that are up here to help, and I also have a friend from Syria who had given me beads like that when I was pregnant with my children to ward off any evil or anything coming to my way. So that's part of it. But then because of all the prayers, there's also a figure in it, and then kind of wings here. So the guardian angel kind of aspect was kind of brought out about it. There's also cell-like things throughout and swirls trying to help with growth. So, okay. So the darkness was on purpose. With the contrast of the light, I felt like it really helped me feel like that was resonant of my healing process. Well, the fabric of my life, or the fabric of life, is the one with next to the nautilus. It's the dark framed one, and it's really one you have to go up and look at. There's a lot of texture because I use these mediums on it to make it really textural. And then on top of that, I added pastel to pull out the texture even more. But it looks like I had these little wooden pieces that had pointy circles. There's one on the bottom of this picture. And it reminded me of the wheels and cogs of a machine. creating my cells, and how our body is an amazing machine, always remaking itself, and especially now it was for me. So this picture was symbolic of rebuilding my life. The swirls and spirals with the medium were to represent the spiraling feel of my life, and also about kind of that building up of my blood cells. I think that the combination of the acrylics and the pastel and the medium really helped to show the flow and movement and texture of the fabric I was weaving. All right, well then Vader, this big dog picture here. Realism isn't my thing. If you look around, I'm not really a big realist. But my newest brother-in-law, Leandro, he married my sister on February 21st, suggests I draw his dog Vader. A black dog. That'll be fun. He didn't seem to notice the pictures I had sent to him and my family were not really realism, but he thought, come on, try it. So I said, okay, this is a time to try new things. Let's see if I can do it. So I expanded my experience. I knew how to do some pastel drawing, so I tried. And I love it. I think it's great. Commissions, anyone? But I was like, oh, I can draw dogs. So it was a realism of something I can do. And I did another one for my mother-in-law, which I don't have here. She has a little dachshund, so I did it because she stayed with Shane and the kids for a month to help him have support because I was gone. And I also gave her one called Wild and Free. That was a quick brush painting and of a horse, and that was one that I had revisited and added. Now, my parents were my lifeline, and there's a little small picture. I need to give them something else, but my mom and dad were like, no, sell them, see if other people want them. But that little one, my mom had loved one of the 6x6s I had done for the Arts Depot, and of course it sold. I should have just given it to her. But anyway, and given them the money. So I did this one, and it's an acrylic with medium, so it actually ended up to me looking like an oil painting. And my dad was so excited. He goes, it looks like Van Gogh. And I was like, oh. And he said, Vachon, go. I was like, perfect. That's yours, Dad. So it's a little just fun picture. Now, the people I was staying with, they had given me this art studio retreat space, and I wanted to thank them. So I looked around their walls, and they had barns and flowers, and they had a dog. I'd already drawn 2 dogs. I thought I could try to draw their dog. But they gave me a picture of the dog sitting behind a seat, so I just saw the head. And then they gave me a video of this dog leaping, which was very cool, but it was very hard to draw from. So I thought, okay. And the whole time I was in the apartment, I had actually this picture that I had loved that had a barn and tulips in the foreground. And it had just amazing colors that had blended. And so that's my capturing of it. And there's a little dog in the foreground crouching ready to play. So that's for them. So. All right, so abracadabra. My brother Paul and his wife Amber are massage therapists. And it was nice to be close to them during this time. And they brought me food, and they helped me with the breathing exercises, and they did some body work, massage with me. They brought my little nephew when he was well, and I was feeling like I could handle a visit, to see me. But they also brought me this big canvas. So I started to think and dream, what could I do? How could I capture my story on this big canvas? So I had done some murals, but I hadn't really done a canvas this big. So I had received 3 quilts during this time, and this one was my favorite. So the first part of this is the quilt, and behind it is kind of the turmoil and the darkness of my process. And then this is just kind of, there's some texture even on here, but this is kind of the hairy cell. And then you'll have to come and look at it because all along these lines are representative of my blood counts and how they were going up and down and how it was really nerve-wracking, like waiting. I would go twice a week to get blood drawn to see how am I doing, and then I'd have to wait for the results the next day. So it was just so agonizing. But so each of these little circles here are circles from people's cards that they gave me. I cut them out and put them as part of the story. This was one of the wrist bracelets that I had to get every single time I went in there, and I had to wear masks a lot for fear of germs. But this part right in here, there's a lot of shadow and darkness because the neutrophils were still not coming up. They were still not growing, so this kind of shadow area. But then finally they started going the right way. And on here, I even had a card with all these little tiny fish in it, and they say, relax, do, praise, receive, enjoy, give. So from far away, it's just the flow of orange, but up close, there's even more depth to this picture. So it's kind of one that was just my story. My dream for this would be that it might be purchased or I would make enough with everything else that I could feel like I could donate it to the cancer center, because there's just not a lot of vibrant art at the center, and I think that all this color and art helped me to heal. So that's my dream, to have that maybe happen. So, all right. How am I doing on time, Shane? You don't know, do you? All right. Who's my timekeeper? How am I doing, Jean? Do I need to wrap it up? Wrap it up. Wave is giving me the sign. Okay. So the last thing I'll say is then, I came back February 5th because my mother-in-law was leaving, and I was totally frazzled the next day. Trying to come back from solitude to being in the thick of being mom and wife and all that was really, really hard. It's hard enough if you just go away a day or two, but try going away 5 weeks. So trying to come back into my home, finding life's rhythms was truly crucial. So this piece right here, the torso with the drum, was symbolic of that, of me trying to find a rhythm again. I had a rhythm by myself, but now I had to incorporate and harmonize with the others that were a part of my family that I loved and wanted to be with, but it was a little challenging. So I did that, and then about 3 weeks or so, maybe 4 weeks after, I finally got to come back to UU and see friends, and Adelaide said, I'm having a class. Come see me. Come be a part of it. Do you think you have enough energy? So I came to Adelaide's class because I hadn't learned oils yet. And so the one on the easel was my first oil painting. It's called Addie's Class. And I just tried it out. It's not really my style. So the next one, the Ode to Spring, is a little bit more my style. Still like springy flowers, but more of my swirls. And then the third one I did is back in the back with the white frame, and it's definitely a dream garden because some of the flowers, I don't know where they came from here in my dreams, and it's okay in art.